2, 1.
My name is Nick. I'm a full-time trader and entrepreneur. We put out tons of stuff for free for traders.
These are real trades. This is real money. I'm putting my money on the line.
This is going to be a live trading video
Here, locking in over $1,000 on this trade.
Wow, I'd love to get in on this.
Technical insights that really look good to me.
Here we go. We're live. Well, good morning, friends. Welcome back to another stream. Happy Thursday to you. Hope you're doing well. We got people in the chat, of course, up to 50 people before the stream really even got going here. So thank you for being here. Like I said, happy Thursday to you. I hope you're doing well. I really do mean that. You guys are the best. The comments I get every day are just so friendly and supportive. And, you know, sometimes when I first started my YouTube trading channel, I sort of was like nervous about it because, you know, when you first get into social media, it's really scary because there's a lot of people out there who criticize and they can be mean. And, you know, of course, that can be sort of belittling and it can be kind of intimidating to get involved with social media at first. And what I will say is that I've been surprised from day one to see that the trading community is actually quite positive, even though, of course, it can be a struggle and people can get upset about losing their money. And there's always people who are angry or trolls or whatever. But the vast majority of the people that come to this channel and hang out and do stuff on the charts with me are overwhelmingly positive. So it's just always a blessing, and I appreciate you guys every day. So thank you for being here. Welcome back. We are going to be doing some market analysis as we usually do. We had a lot of volatility here just leading up before the stream. I've been watching the markets and things are just really moving. So I figured we would jump right into it, take a look at some things together and see if we can make out any conclusions in this crazy market today. So with that said, let's hop into it. All right, so let's start with the dollar like we usually do. The dollar pulling back here after yesterday's really strong spike. Of course, we saw that the dollar got very strong yesterday in response to the Fed's very hawkish tone. To reiterate or sort of recap what happened with the Fed basically came out and said, hey, you know what? We are seeing the progress that we want to see. We are looking to taper more seriously, and maybe even rates are closer than we had previously thought. Rate hikes, right? All of those things very bullish for the dollar. Now, on the back of that, however, they did keep the door sort of open. They said, hey, you know what? If the economy needs stimulus, we aren't opposed to, you know, stepping in and continuing that. Clearly, they've been very apparent with that in the last year or so, which has been sort of, you know, to their credit, the economy probably would have been in a lot more trouble if stimulus around the world didn't happen. So anyways, looking at the dollar today, we see prices basically taken a pause or a pullback pretty strongly after that news yesterday, which is interesting because, of course, you had that really sort of hawkish outlook followed by some doubt apparently for the dollar itself. With that said, we also saw the stock markets really rock in the last 24 hours. Let's take a look at SPX 500 really quick just to show you this. So the S&P came out really strong in response to everything going on, which of course was a little bit confusing, but sometimes markets are just confusing. We did put in that double bottom, real strong demand came in and pushed us off of the lows, now seeing some follow through. For those of you guys who are watching the S&P 500, of course, a couple levels to think about are, of course, you've got some levels of resistance up here. We saw this thing really collapse underneath this level here at 44.50. As we come back up to that level, the question is, are there going to be any sellers that maybe be sticking around looking for opportunities to sell into this buy pressure? We will have to see. It does seem like, looking at the 4-hour chart, that we do have a reasonable amount of bearishness on this chart. Will it play out or will the rally continue? If I had to make a decision, just because of how insanely bullish this thing has been, I would say I probably would not be shorting this thing. I just can't bring myself to do it. It is just a very uphill battle, quite literally. So, you know, one of those things. But in terms of the sellers, if you are more of a more of a bear than I am, maybe there's some opportunity looking for that on the pullback. Looking at the S&P 500, of course, I bring that up because I made the point yesterday that the S&P 500 is very relevant even to people who are not trading it. It's a risk on, risk off sentiment gauge, in my opinion, even if you are not trading actual stocks or indices themselves. So what we will do here is we'll continue on. I just want to make sure everybody is in the chat doing all right. Good to see you guys in the chat, by the way. Patrick, Victoria, Keenan, Smart Traders, Hassan, Mohammed, Pavan, Ganesh, Bogdan, Focused Lenses, Tony. What is going on, everybody? Thank you for being here. So, so my thoughts here when looking at the dollar are that, okay, the dollar to me technically is very strong. There's just been so many instances where, okay, we see buyers come in, putting in those higher lows, right? We can see it across the board here that the buyers have showed up multiple times. Now, I am still not incredibly bullish on the dollar, but that news yesterday swung me from sort of neutral to slightly bullish, right? So I am bullish enough to admit that I think that this thing has potential to make a stab at yearly highs, which again, we've talked about this a few times, but just to recap, 93.7 is roughly where we saw sellers take control of the dollar previously at the yearly highs. So what I mean yearly highs is that's the high of 2021. Okay. And when those big psychological levels come into play, it can be sort of a big deal. So for example, let me give you a scenario. Let's say that the dollar gets really strong and we see this thing find support off of these levels and even make its way back up to 2021 highs. Of course, there's a big level of psychological resistance, right? The yearly high. Everybody is sort of like, I don't know if I want to buy at the high of the year, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're the one buying the top. So there's a little bit of hesitation naturally. However, if you do see enough of strong hands pumping into this, they might just say, hey, you know what? That may have been the yearly high, but now we're making new highs. And so in that scenario, what I want to sort of caution people who look at that and say, oh, well, then it's just a sell if it gets up there. The problem with that is that sometimes it's a sell, yes, but in other instances, it's getting back to the highs for a reason. There's a lot of demand for the market that's pushing it right back up there. And maybe this time there's enough demand to create a new high. And you have to think about that. When you're trending higher, it is natural to see new highs. And so if we do see the dollar make its stab back up to that previous high, it's very possible that we could see a breakout and continue. People were saying that back here. Let me show you. Let me give you a quick example. So here was a scenario in which we said, hey, there's the high of the year. That looks like, you know, a very high point. Price was making its way back up there. And people said, you know what? That's the high of the year. Probably just going to sell that. And so that was bearish for a little bit. But then we poked back up and look what happened. We made a huge breakout to the upside and saw some big movements on the dollar. So of course, I just want to caution you, don't assume just because something is, you know, quote unquote, the high or at a resistance point that it cannot go higher. It certainly could, and we will have to keep an eye on the dollar to see how it reacts at those levels if we get up there. Of course, that's an if by itself. But I just wanted to point that out because sometimes I get comments on my YouTube channel. People say like, oh, well, if it gets to the low of the year, it's definitely going to come off. Or if it goes up to the high, it has to come down, right? And the problem with that logic is that it can get you in a lot of trouble thinking that, hey, if I sell this thing, there's no chance it goes any higher than that. When if you've been trading for a while, you know that that is like some famous last words kind of stuff. That's like stuff you say right before, you know, like any last words, and then the market flies against you, right? So you got to be careful out there, you guys. Okay, let's take a look at the euro against the dollar. Speaking of the dollar pairs, so the euro did something real interesting in the last 48 hours. So with that really big spike on the dollar, I didn't cover this in my video yesterday. Yesterday, I talked about gold, the DXY, the S&P 500, but I didn't talk about the euro. So let's look at the euro here in response to yesterday's movement. So there's that big red candle from yesterday, right? You had a significant sell-off on the euro in response to this because, again, for the newer traders out there, if you are looking at Euro USD and the US dollar gets very strong, which yesterday we had very strong news for the dollar, that would cause the euro dollar currency pair to actually go lower, right? The euro would go lower relative to a strengthening US dollar. So today, what we see is that price basically came down initially, but now we're seeing the retracement. We're seeing price basically come back up. I think that the euro has a very good chance of making a move back down to the lows of the year, similar to what we just talked about with the dollar and how I think it could be headed for new highs for the year. I think that the Euro USD may see fresh lows. So again, look at the pattern here. We could see lower highs, 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 lower highs. You get the point. We're seeing this thing continue to sell off. We are seeing a pattern to the downside. And you have to understand, I'm coming from a place where I took a long position here thinking that, hey, we had found support, broken out, retested, thinking, hey, we're going to continue higher. And although I was initially right, eventually I was wrong. And so you have to be, as a trader, trust me, if you don't admit that you're wrong, the market will do it for you. And that is way worse. It's better to just admit when you're wrong, probably not just in markets, maybe just in life in general. I think that I've been dating a girl for 6 years, and I don't think it would have happened if we both didn't agree to try and find ways to admit when we're wrong, because it's a life lesson that will hurt you if you don't learn it, and it will help you if you do. So I think it helps in markets as well to admit when you're wrong, because you can just readjust. You sort of rethink things and approach it differently. So yeah, that is my thoughts. Actually, this is a good point. Ty says records can be beaten, which I totally agree in reference to that idea that, okay, well, if you have a high of year, that's sort of the record, right? And records get broken all the time. So yeah, that's a good point, Ty. I like the way you said that. That's a great analogy. It's kind of like someone has a record in a record book, and there's people out there trying to beat it, and then eventually someone does, right? Yeah. So like I said, I think the Euro USD, the low of the year is right around there at 1.1675. We've discussed that a couple different times. Although we are seeing a bounce off before reaching that level, I think that the Euro could make its way, drift back lower. So if you're a seller on the Euro, there may be some opportunities to look out for. It depends how you draw your trend lines. Of course, I've mentioned on my stream many times that trend lines are a bit subjective, but we could very well see some more pullback before seeing any sort of follow through. I think that the Euro, there's no setups for me in the short term that I really like. So I just wanted to point out that I think that, a natural place for price to go would be back down to the lows, but we're going to have to wait and see, because it does look like right now the Euro is at least catching some strength. Pound dollar also. Pound jumped really, really strong here today. So let's go look at this. Let's go look at what's happened with the pound. The pound had some really hawkish outlook from their central bank, which I am bullish on the pound. I have been bullish on the pound, but I've been looking for the technical breakout. And it does look like we may have seen something of substance here. Maybe not on the pound dollar, but there may be some other currency pairs to look out for. I have my eye on pound CHF right now. So maybe we can take a look at pound CHF in just a moment. But to the credit of the bears, we have been seeing a lot of sell side for this currency pair, and we are testing right now the 38.2. And you can actually see that there has been so far a response from sellers at this level. So going to have to watch and see how that reacts for the rest of the day. Again, the pound dollar basically fell out of favor. We had this really strong uptrend. It broke out to the downside, sell, sell, sell. And now with this bounce, question is, are we going to see sellers kind of retake their positions and push this thing back down? Or can the buyers see more upside? I think personally that the pound is bullish, but I also think that the dollar is a bit bullish. So I probably wouldn't trade pound dollar at this time. Again, I was trading at all sorts over here. I took some good trades over there on the pound on the long side, but where we currently sit, I'm not really willing to jump into anything on the pound against the dollar. However, the pound Swiss, I do like this one to the long side. I like it at the 50%. Let me show you guys this. I was looking at this thing on the lower time frames earlier, actually even lower time frames. This is weird for me to get this low, but I did like the news there for the pound. It was quite bullish in my opinion. We had a lot of strength come into the pound pairs, and that's not just random. For the newer traders out there, what causes that is usually some form of monetary policy shift or economic data that comes out, something that really strengthens the pound. And we saw that the Bank of England basically released their monetary policy statement, and it came out as sort of hawkish, seeing as, inflation is a problem there as it is in many places. The UK basically has said, hey, you know what? We are looking to sort of tighten monetary policy, or at least that's sort of the rumor going around. And that causes a lot of bullishness for the pound. So we did see that spike to the upside, and now seeing a bit of a pullback. To me, that looks interesting. I do, like I said, I like that 50% retracement. If we get there, I may be looking at that a little bit closer. So just a little bit of a idea there. Of course, there is one level that is probably better, which is probably that 61.8. That one looks nice because you've got support. You've also, at that point, you're not buying the hype so much, right? So what I mean by that is, a lot of times you get these big news spikes and they're great, but then you see sort of some fading as people sort of kind of figure out prices and stuff like that. They see what's fair value for something like this. And then you get the hype is sort of faded out of there. And then that's usually where I like to try and jump in and try and capture some of the follow through on the higher time frames. Of course, when you look at like the 5-minute chart for these news events, we could take a look at the 5-minute, for example. The 5-minute will move like really aggressively. A great example, of course, would be like dollar yen. Dollar yen yesterday, right? So we had the news spikes, and these spikes can be really crazy. But then we had a lot of strength come back into the dollar, and you can see now that there's actually some like gradual follow through, right? For me, trading the spike is not really my thing. I'd much rather sort of look for that follow-through moves that can happen for the next day, 3 days, 5 days, things like that. So speaking of dollar yen, while we're here, let's take a look at the 4-hour chart and see how things are going here. So the dollar yen has been incredibly back and forth. We do seem to be really strengthening to the upside there. I don't know if that's more yen weakness or more dollar strength, but I'm going to bet that it's actually sort of yen weakness right now as stock markets have gotten really strong. Yep. So the yen is coming down pretty hard, which is causing dollar yen. And by the way, like things like NZD yen, we'll take a look at those in a moment. They are flying today. So we'll have to go take a look at some of that. Yeah. So let's take a look at some of this action on the dollar yen. So dollar yen has been sort of putting in these lower highs. We've seen a bit of a downtrend there, and now actually seeing the breakout here today. To be fair, this may be the breakout that we've been watching for on dollar yen. We may actually finally see some follow through as the JPY is getting quite weak right now due to sort of stock market rallies. As you guys may or may not know, the JPY tends to rally quite strongly when markets are scared, right? When people are afraid of the, markets in terms of risk on, risk off sentiment. When people are like, oh, sell stocks, don't buy stocks, that's scary. Things are going down, things are getting bad. The yen kind of strengthens up, right? People tend to go jump and buy the yen. And the flip side happens when stocks are really strong. A lot of times you see that yen get sold into, which is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a rush out the door for the yen in favor of other currencies. So that's why we're seeing the dollar yen rally strong today, or at least that's my take on it. Take it as you will. So I think dollar yen may be a buy, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go buy it right here. As you guys know, I don't like to chase things. I prefer... I'm sort of like a pullback trader, right? So I am a pullback trader. I like to trade pullbacks in strength, pullbacks in resistance, in things that fundamentally and technically I like to buy or sell. I am a trend follower, so I'm looking for those setups in which the market is starting to trend and showing some signals that continuation is likely. So if I were to look at the 1-hour chart, you can see we've got a bit of momentum here. But the other thing I would caution anybody who is looking at something like the dollar yen The dollar yen has been really back and forth. We've seen this several times. Trend, trend, trend. Like it's just sort of making these sprints up and then sprints down, sprints up, sprints down. So I'm not like jumping to conclusions here quickly with the dollar yen. This is a pair that I'm keeping on my radar because the yen looks like it's really starting to see some weakness, which may be some opportunity. In fact, let's go look at some of the better ones out there, in my opinion. NZD JPY, take a look at this one. This one has been trending lower, 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 right? You can take a look at the 4-hour chart. This one's really had some struggle, but now it seems like the breakout has finally come into play. Here is NZD JPY on the 4-hour chart, and you can see price put in a beautiful inverted head and shoulders right here. That's a clear as day. Even the newer traders should be able to at least see this idea. You have, so let's actually, you know what we're going to do? We are going to draw this out in its full glory. We'll take a look at this. We'll use the tools here on TradingView. Why not? We might as well. If I can find them. I always have to find them. Head and shoulders. There it is. So really, really straightforward. Left shoulder is there, right? The head of the move is there. The right shoulder is here. And bam, not only did we get the pattern, but now we kind of see the follow through of how powerful some of these patterns can be. We are seeing NZD JPY break out really strong today. So let me just clean up this chart just a bit for you, just so we can see this. So again, we had like resistance, right? We had sellers basically in this area. And the idea with an inverted head and shoulders pattern is you're just seeing, okay, in a trending market to the downside, what do we know? We know that we're putting in lower highs and lower lows, right? But when you see that change direction where you start seeing a higher low, like right here, that can be an early warning sign that the trend may be turning around. How do you know if it's a right shoulder? Well, for me, what that means is a break of this neckline. So again, we have a left shoulder, the head, price came up, found a higher low, and started to break out. And it even gave you a chance, of course, in hindsight. I know I'm doing this in hindsight, and it's easy to talk in hindsight. It gave you that break, retest, and jump, right? So now NZD JPY is just absolutely to the upside. I wish I had caught this trade myself. It looks really, really strong. And the cool thing here is that this has potential on not just the 4-hour, but even on the daily chart. Take a look at the 1 day, and we can see. Let's see, can I just change this to the daily chart? The 1 day chart looks like it may be headed back up to resistance there. So NZD JPY looks very strong. It doesn't mean I'm going to buy it right here, but it just means, this is a bullish currency pair in my opinion at this time. NZD getting very strong today. So is AUD JPY. These both are on the move to the upside. Aussie yen lagging a bit behind here, but still seeing a nice jump in today's price action. So what about pound yen? Pound yen, as far as I know, is jumping as well. There's pound yen making a move there big time to the upside. This one, though, has just been really decimated over time. You can see, from the high to the previous low, we were down 4.5%, which is a pretty significant move for a currency pair. That's 715 pips to the downside from the high there to the previous low. So where do we go from here? Well, pound yen, I am really, really interested in being long on, but I'm waiting for a key signal here. I would really like to see pound yen go a bit stronger, just get a breakout of this downward channel, this downward trend, right? Where we see bam, 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 right? We've seen that kind of play out multiple times. I had my hopes up back here for a buy. You can see that was a buy trade that I took that ended up not going so well. And now I'm just waiting to see, hey, can we get the breakout? I'd like to give that another shot to see if we can get something like this. Would love to trade that to the upside there on pound yen. So like I said, pound yen hot on the radar as well. NZD yen, on the radar. And another one is CAD yen. CAD yen, I believe, had a really strong day as oil has had a nice move to the upside as well. CAD yen may look even smoother than the pound against the yen. So looking at this one, are we going to get the breakout? I would love it. You guys already know I love trading against the yen to the upside. I have been for the last year or so. it's been a pretty good candidate, but it's been tough recently because we've seen a lot of sell trend here to the downside. Is this going to continue? I think it has potential, but I'm not going to go jumping into longs until I start to see, the breakout and potential follow through setups come into play. So that's my opinion there on the yen pairs. I am bearish, but I'm only really going to execute a trade if I see the move starts to sort of follow through. Again, we've held this level of support really, really strong. This level multiple times has come into play. You're talking about moves back in July where we tagged this level, back in April where we tagged this level, August, right? Every time there has been a strong rally by the bulls. So I'm watching it close. I'd love to see this thing break out. If it breaks out, I will try and be looking for longs myself. Some of the other ones are CAD Swiss, of course. This one looks kind of similar. I am also bearish on the Swiss franc, and these ones are moving big time today. You can see NZD CHF making a move for the high side there on the daily chart. Really, really aggressive moves there. So we will keep these on the radar for sure. I'm liking the Swiss franc pairs and the yen pairs if we see continued weakness for the yen and the franc. So with that said, I'll keep those on the watch list. Is cryptocurrency payment accepted for payment? Amjad, if you would like to, you can send a message to our support team. All you do is head over to a1trading.com and then go to the contact page in the menu. So just go to contact us, and then you can send a message and someone will help you with that. So yes, we do. If you'd like to join our group, I think you can do crypto, or you could also do Skrill if you don't have like PayPal or debit or credit cards. Some people outside of the US have issues with paying. So Emily will probably help you out with that. She's our support rep. She'll help you out. What's up, Ryan? Good to see you, man. So yeah, all sorts of stuff going on in today's crazy market. So with that said, let's go take a look at gold. Of course, the hot topic of the day. Look at this, you guys. So gold, I made a video yesterday about gold. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but I pointed out that this 61.8 level absolutely held, and it does look like gold for the time being is bearish. And my idea in that video was a continued move down to 1745. So we'll see if that comes into play. I think that the gold market has more room to the downside, especially with that dollar strength recently. And sort of seemingly this tendency towards monetary policy tightening, not just in the US, but in other places as well. That may cause gold to hurt a little bit, right? Because gold sort of flourishes when there's inflation and concerns, and fiat currencies are scary and people want to buy something that could potentially hold value. When gold gets rocked like this, it's usually because things are looking all right. Things are looking like monetary policy is headed in the right direction, or in terms of tightening and things like that. So I think that gold is. I personally wouldn't be buying it. I have some, of course, as like a long-term piece of my portfolio, but it's not something that I'm like adding to aggressively or building a big position in. Just because this thing has a reaction to these monetary policy tightening statements that we keep hearing from places like the UK earlier on today, and the US yesterday. So I think that that's the direction that we're headed. So if that trend continues, gold likely will also see a downside continuation. So we'll see. That would be my fundamental bias on gold, as well as my technical bias. You can see a beautiful level of resistance there, held very nicely to the downside. So that is my opinion there on gold, as I think we see more downside there. Coinbase email. Again, Amjad, I'm not going to be able to help you on the stream. Just send a message to Emily on our website and she will get you set up. She'll get you all situated. If you'd like to join the group, she can help you out. So yeah, she has like the company crypto wallet and stuff like that. So cool. With that said, guys, I think that's going to wrap up the stream. I pretty much did every market that I wanted to cover today. Before I go, I do want to say, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, we've got more stuff coming to this channel as well as to our second channel, A1 Trading. if you guys are out there and you're learning to trade and you're struggling, you're trying to figure this stuff out, don't go spend a bunch of money on courses or anything. Literally watch this content for free. And if you hit that subscribe button, you'll get more of it for free. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all that sort of stuff to help grow our channel on YouTube and also to give yourself more access to this sort of content. With that said, guys, thank you very much for being here today. I hope you got something out of the stream. And as always, we will see you back in the next one. Of course, we are streaming Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. US Eastern. So we'll be back in about 24 hours to do another live stream. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you back next time.
I know you're expecting Nick, but my name's Julie and I do the real work around here. I wanted to take a second to thank you guys for watching the show and tell you more about some free content that we offer. One of the things that we offer is a free email newsletter. So if you click the link down below, you can sign up for free market analysis, trading tips, and exclusive offers. Every once in a while, someone here at A1 Trading takes a crazy trade and you'll be the first one to know about it. See you guys next time.